Welcome back to Hood Melon Culture Studios. It is I, your host, the only Elohim that ever decides to take a host. And today we're going to be talking about FlexFire technology, FRTs, WOTs, ARTs, super safeties, etc., etc. We're going to go over the patent law, who owns the patent on all the technology whatsoever. Which is just one man, by the way, Thomas Allen Graves, the most genius inventor, wizard, Nikola Tesla of the gun industry, the engine industry, rocketry, boats, you name it, he's done it, he's made it better, and he's going to make America the number one superpower on the planet for the next 1,000 years once he gets all of his technology rolled out and ready to go. Alrighty then. Now that we got that out of the way, let's jump right in. Stay tuned. Make sure you hit that like button, subscribe, share, follow, and just strap in and have a good time. Alright, let's get right down to it. And I'll have the link to this in my description below if you want to check it out yourself. Whew. Sorry, I've just been running up and down stairs all day. Let's get back to it. FlexFire G2 technology. Graves, Thomas Allen. U.S. Patent Application Number 15/811-212 was filed with the Patent Office on 2018. What is that, like March 8th or something? For FlexFire G2 technology. The applicant listed for this patent is Thomas Allen Graves. Invention is credited to Thomas Allen Graves. Alrighty then. FlexFire G2 technology. By the way, FlexFire G2 technology is super safety. It is rare breed, whatever they're making now. It's FRT, WOT, ART, whatever you want to call it. This is what it is, and anyone and everyone who's making it is infringing upon Thomas's patent. Now then, let's get into it. Abstract. A trigger-activated arm may use engagement of an integrated gun bolt cam with an integrated trigger cam to reposition the trigger as the gun bolt reciprocates. The gun bolt trigger engagement may be used to reset the trigger. Graves, Thomas Allen, Butte, Texas, yeah. Oh, filed November 13th, 2017. Yeah, that's what he told me on the phone. Oh, began in was like September 11, 2014, 2015, and then 2017. Oh, wow. Okay. I guess I'll look at those in a minute. So it looks like he's had it for himself for a while. And just ignore all these stupid ads. A trigger-activated arm comprising a frame, a barrel that is supported to the frame, a trigger that 1 has an integrated cam surface, 2 is depressible to fire the arm, and a gun bolt that has an integrated cam surface and reciprocates with respect to the frame, wherein as the gun bolt reciprocates, the gun bolt integrated cam surface engages the trigger integrated cam surface to reposition the trigger. The trigger-activated arm of Claim 1, wherein the gunbolt integrated cam surface engages the trigger integrated cam surface to reset the trigger into a pre-depressed position. 3. The trigger-activated arm of Claim 2, wherein a high-energy reset force that exceeds the typical force of manual activation is used to reset the trigger. The trigger-activated arm of Claim 1, wherein the trigger is depressible to fire the arm once per operating cycle. The gun bolt reciprocates in a rearward stroke and forward stroke, and mechanical contact between the trigger and gun bolt prevents the depression of the trigger during any part of the operating cycle except when in battery or within 15% of the forward gun bolt stroke. The trigger-activated arm of Claim 1, wherein the arm is a semi-automatic arm. The trigger-activated arm of Claim 1 comprising a hammer that activates a firing pin to fire the arm. The trigger-activated arm of Claim 1 comprising a striker that fires the arm. A method comprising of steps providing a trigger-activated arm comprising a frame, a barrel that is supported to the frame, a trigger that has an integrated cam surface and is depressible to fire the arm, and a gun bolt that has an integrated cam surface and reciprocates with respect to the frame, and providing the trigger-activated arm to be operable to reposition the trigger as the gun bolt reciprocates and the gun bolt integrated cam surface engages the trigger integrated cam surface. 9. The method of Claim 8, wherein Step B comprises the step of providing the trigger-activated arm to be operable to reset the trigger into a pre-depressed position as the gun bolt reciprocates and the gun bolt integrated cam surface engages the trigger integrated cam surface. The method of 8, wherein Step B comprises the step of providing the trigger-activated arm to use a high-energy reset force that exceeds the typical force of manual activation to reset the trigger. 11. Look at all these different ways that he owns y'all's butts. The method of Claim 8, wherein Step A comprises the steps of providing the trigger to be depressible to fire the arm once per operating cycle and providing the gun bolt to reciprocate in a rearward stroke and forward stroke, and Step B comprises the step of providing the trigger-activated arm to be operable using mechanical contact between the trigger and the gun bolt to prevent depression of the trigger during any part of the operating cycle except when in battery or within 15% of the forward gun bolt stroke. 12. The method of Claim 11, wherein Step B comprises the step of providing the trigger-activated arm to be operable using mechanical contact between the trigger and the gun bolt to prevent depression of the trigger during any part of the operating cycle except when in battery or within 5% of the forward gun bolt stroke. 13. The method of Claim 8, wherein Step A comprises the step of providing the trigger-activated arm to be semi-automatic arm. 14. The method of Claim 8, wherein Step A comprises the step of providing the trigger-activated arm to comprise a hammer that activates a firing pin to fire the arm. 15. The method of Claim 8, wherein Step A comprises the step of providing the trigger-activated arm to comprise a striker that fires the arm. 16. A trigger reset mechanism for use with a trigger-activated arm having a frame, a barrel that is supported to the frame, a trigger that is depressible to fire the arm, and a gun bolt that reciprocates with respect to the frame. The trigger reset mechanism comprising an integrated cam surface on the gun bolt that engages an integrated cam surface on the trigger to reset the trigger into a pre-depressed position as the gun bolt reciprocates. 17. The trigger reset mechanism of Claim 16, wherein the trigger reset mechanism uses a high-energy reset force that exceeds the typical force of manual activation. 18. The trigger reset mechanism of Claim 16, wherein mechanical contact between the trigger and the gun bolt prevents depression of the trigger during any part of the operating cycle except when in battery or within 15% of a forward gun bolt stroke. 19. The trigger reset mechanism of Claim 16, wherein the trigger is automatically reset once per operating cycle. 20. The trigger reset mechanism of Claim 16, wherein the trigger is reset during an earliest 50% of an operating cycle. Description. 0001. This application is a continuation in part of U.S. Patent Number 9,816,772 entitled FlexFire Technology, which is a divisional of U.S. Patent Number 9,568,264 entitled FlexFire Technology, which claims priority to provisional patent application U.S. whatever serial number 62/049. All right. Entitled FlexFire Technology, all of which are incorporated herein by reference. Ooh, you guys are gonna get sued for a lot of money and lose. Background. A field of invention. My present subject is a high-energy trigger reset methods and apparatus that include hammer-fire, gun-bolt-driven automatic trigger reset technology that is herein referred to as FlexFire G2 technology. The following is a specification of my invention, including attached drawings. This specification is intended to be understood by a person skilled in the mechanical arts, inclusive of modern semi-automatic arms. Description of related art. In the art of trigger-activated small arms, it may be increasingly desirable to be capable of more rapidly repeatable and more accurate shot placement, or in any way to decrease repeatable operating cycle duration within mechanical practicality. The concept of a semi-automatic arm includes a manually activated trigger that fires once per operating cycle. In the case of small arm with a reciprocating gun bolt, an operating cycle is comprised of 2 strokes of the gun bolt. One stroke is rearward and one stroke is forward. Each operating cycle requires an independent depression of the trigger to initiate and also requires a reset of the trigger per operating cycle to initiate a subsequent operating cycle. In my technical writing that is dated September 11th, 2014, with revisions thereof, ultimately entitled FlexFire Technology of U.S. Patent Number 9,568,264, I've introduced a gunbolt-driven direct mechanical reset of a trigger. This technology accomplishes digital precision of trigger reset function at any given gunbolt reciprocation rate, and therefore has provided a fundamental basis for futuristic high-speed semi-automatic fire control / operating systems. FlexFire technology proper in this context is a technical term referring to high-energy trigger reset technology. Basically, this implies that a trigger depression followed by a high-energy automatic trigger reset are accomplished per unit firing cycle. The use of high energy in the descriptor is given to indicate a trigger reset force that exceeds the typical force of manual activation and therefore could be considered a positive displacement trigger reset. Trigger-activated semi-automatic arms that utilize technology claims of U.S. Patent Number 9,568,264 include a high-energy trigger reset method and apparatus having a striker-type ignition system. Summary. This summary is provided to introduce a selection of concepts in a simplified form that are further described below in the detailed description. This summary is not intended to identify key factors or essential features of the claimed subject matter, nor is it intended to be used to limit the scope of the claimed subject matter. That is one of the most important parts of this whole thing. According to some embodiments of this invention, a trigger-activated arm may include a frame, a barrel that is supported to the frame, a trigger that has an integrated cam surface and is depressible to fire the arm, and a gun bolt that has an integrated cam surface and reciprocates with respect to the frame. As the gun bolt reciprocates, the gun bolt integrated cam surface may engage the trigger integrated cam surface to reposition the trigger. According to other embodiments of this invention, a method may include steps of providing a trigger-activated arm. Read all this already. According to other embodiments of the trigger reset mechanism, an integrated cam service, gun bolt, and integrated cam service on the trigger, reset the trigger into a pretty press position, gun bolt reciprocated. According to other embodiments, just the same thing over and over and over again. To reiterate, pretty much, if the gun does any of this shit at all, and your design of an FRT trigger, active reset trigger, forced reset trigger, wide open trigger, frickin' super safety, whatever the hell you want to call it, you have infringed upon Thomas Allen Graves' patent. His invention, his livelihood, everything. His name has been driven through the mud. The frickin' goddamn rare breed guys tried to frickin' just end him financially and just everything else, stole his work, frickin' made up fake contracts with frickin' lawyers, and then they hired other lawyers to try and hide the frickin' lawyers that frickin' filed the false documents and frickin' all this crap. And then there are these other two guys called the Round Brothers that committed corporate espionage against Thomas and then stole the patents, frickin' all the information to it, went over to Rare Breed, is also known as Spikes Tactical, and then frickin', what's it called, or Spikes Tactical owns Rare Breed, and then they sold it to them, and then frickin' Rare Breed, for some reason, like a frickin' dumb butt, licensed it through them, the thieves of the technology that tried to frickin' cover their tracks with the paper trail that actually made their tracks to begin with. So all in all, it's a huge debacle of pure stupidity. And moving on. The invention may take physical form in certain parts and arrangement of parts, embodiments of which will be described in detail in the specification and illustrated in the accompanying drawings, which from a part hereof and wherein. Figure 1 is a side view and partial cutaway showing an arm equipped with the embodiments of FlexFire technology. Figure 2 shows portions of the arm. Figure 1 separated for clarity. Figure 3 shows portions of an arm with components similar to those shown in Figure 1, but with numerous components removed for clarity. The gun bolt is shown in the full frontward position, and the trigger is shown in the non-depressed position. Figure 4 is a side view in partial cutaway showing positions of an arm equipped with embodiments of FlexFire G2 technology of this invention with a hammer and an uncocked position. I'm reading all of this now, but it sounds very familiar to the file that you can download on Odyssey that Hoffman Tactical put out with all the figures and everything. I mean, it's just, if you're going to copy and paste someone else's invention, at least give them the credit and avoid, jail time and $3 million fine. That's if he settles, like, $3 to $5 million is what he's going to have to pay personally to Thomas Allen Graves and his super awesome bad A cutthroat lawyer who came out of retirement just to defend Thomas because everybody's been effing him over for way too long, and he was just like, this ain't right, we're gonna cut these guys' frickin' throats and just remove them from the problem altogether. Now then, in a court of law, of course, speaking, yes. Now, detailed description. Referring now to drawings wherein the showings for any purpose of illustrating embodiments of the invention only and not purposes of limiting the same, and wherein like reference numerals are understood to refer to like components. Following is a list of components according to some embodiments of this invention: a frame, stationary part, a gun bolt, reciprocating type, a trigger, a disconnector, integrated safety, sear type, a safety lock, a safety transfer bar, a safety paddle, engagement device, a buffer, elastic bushing type, a striker, integrated sear type, a striker biasing member, which may be a spring, helical compression type, a main recoil biasing member, which may be a spring, helical compression type, a chamber face, barrel and chamber assembly, magazine, standard box magazine, a disconnector biasing member, which may be a spring, helical compression type, a safety biasing member, which may be a spring, sear surface of the trigger, sear surface of striker, bottom surface of gun bolt, sear surface of disconnector, space between gun bolt and trigger 3, top surface, with reference to figures 1, 2, and 3, FlexFire technology is defined to fire common cartridge type ammunition from within the chamber. The system is operated by hand and trigger 3. You know what? I'll probably just end up like going to the file, because I have all these files written on my phone. I can just go pull the figures up and show you what it's talking about. That's, if y'all want to see them, I can do a more in-depth freaking run on it. But I'll put this whole thing in the description below if y'all want to go through it yourself. And you can find, I think, most of all of these figures. If you look up Hoffman Tactical, one of the guys that said he patented this technology but is a liar. And hopefully he'll release a damage control video to warn the entire gun community, force reset, trigger community, the whole, just community that's really, really loving these things. And he'll put a disclaimer out saying that he's not liable for any lawsuits that may be taken against you if you do end up downloading his files and or manufacturing, selling, or producing your own triggers, because they are all in violation of Thomas Allen Graves' patent. And if you sell even one of them, you are liable to get sued by Thomas Allen Graves and receive a $3 million fine, bare minimum. Now that we got all that covered, also promoting any of this technology, as in shooting it in your gun, whatever, friggin', I have one. I can show you that I have one. Friggin', I'm not gonna put it in a gun and shoot it for you and friggin', try and drive up sales or any of that other nonsense, because even promoting any of that content on your individual social media channels or YouTube channels will land you a lawsuit against Thomas Allen Graves, because the technology is all theft. And it was never allowed to be put out into the world and made in the first place. No royalties were paid to Thomas Allen Graves for any of them to be made. It's just been one giant freaking can of worms, foobar mess. and it really needs to be sorted out. And so we, all of us honest, hardworking, law-abiding American citizens, can start purchasing them if Thomas ever decides to start or put them into production, because he is just really pissed off about all of this and it's giving him one hell of a headache. And I wouldn't be surprised if he just says, screw triggers, none of you can have them in the next few years, but we will see. And he might not, because he's a really cool guy, so here's a hoping, right? Now, depression of trigger 3. So this is all the figures. Let me see if there's any more information here that does not refer to the figures, because they're not showing them on here. Alright, does not look like it. Let's just, numerous embodiments have been described herein where apparent to those skilled in the art that the hub of methods and apparatus may incorporate changes and modifications without departing from the general scope of this invention. It is intended to include all such modifications and alterations in so far as they come within the scope of the appended claims or the equivalents thereof. Further, the invention, as that term is used in this document, it's what is claimed in the claims of this document. The right to claim elements and or subcombinations that are disclosed herein as other inventions and other patent documents is hereby unconditionally reserved. All right, so that means all the triggers that have been made on this design are infringing on Thomas's patent. It's right here, plain as day. So this should have been taken care of, no problem by now. And everybody at Rare Breed, I hope you go to prison for a very, very, very effing long time. You dirty, rotten thieves. You'll get yours. Alrighty then, now that we've covered all of that, I'm just going to... Oh, that's right. I said I was going to show you guys the trigger that I actually have in my possession, didn't I? Well, alrighty then. So I bought this off of... It's a Hoffman Super Safety. You know, fat freaking mil-spec steel. Again, see if you can see it real well. There's the cam, there's the trigger, there's the lever. And then here is the detent and like some stupid safety guard or some nonsense like that. But yeah, I bought those off a site which I'm not going to mention, because that would be promoting a counterfeit business who is in a very morally ethical black area right now. And well, it's very nice to be able to have it, but I wish I could have had the brainchild of the great man Thomas Alva Graves, the Nikola Tesla of our time. Yeah, so it's just knowing the truth, having a conscience, a very strong sense of right and wrong, justice and honor. It really, really just angers me that all of this is going on. And Thomas is a really cool guy, and I am honored to just to be able to know him. And I think everyone else in the community needs to show him a lot more support, instead of saying like, oh, I don't care, this and that, blah, 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 and just insulting his livelihood and everything that he has worked towards to get to this point in his life. And he decides to give us the most amazing innovation to firearms since the dawn of the machine gun. And it's in our hands. I mean, we can properly defend ourselves if the government goes tyrannical. We can defend ourselves against a police state. We can finally take on the monstrosity of an abomination that our government on both city, state, and federal have become. So, yeah. Sorry to be such a Debbie Downer right there, but I hope you have enjoyed this episode of Hood Melon Culture Studios. I am your host, your one and only God who takes flesh. And if you try and worship me while I'm in this body, I'll smack you upside the head so hard you'll see your past life. Peace!